Marking Period 1, Extension Opportunity 2. For proof that I visited this site, pictures will show up during the movie. During the summer while vacationing in Long Island, I went to the Montauk Point Lighthouse. It is located all the way at the east end of the southern fork of Long Island. The lighthouse is contained within Montauk State Park. Also in Montauk State Park is the focus of my third extension opportunity, Camp Hero, a former Air Force station. On the lighthouse grounds, there are three main buildings that you can go through. So the first and the most obvious is the lighthouse itself. Um, you go to the top, and that's where the light is contained, and you can see out. And then the second is the lighthouse keeper's house, where back in the day, the person who kept up on the lamp and the lighthouse would live day to day. And then third is a small grounds building, and currently it has an exhibit about ocean pollution in it. There are a few sculptures made of plastic recovered from the ocean, but that building is not important to this extension opportunity. So the lighthouse is 110 feet tall, and it is 137 steps to the top. Climbing up to the top was not really a challenge, but at points it was a little narrow with people going up and down at the same time. But once you're to the top, the view is pretty cool because you can see the whole island looking back, and then when you look out to the ocean, it's just the ocean as far as you can see, pretty much. So the museum portion of the lighthouse I thought was well done. It details the history of the Native Americans that used to live there, the whaling that used to go on out there, the revolution, its creation, its inception, everything about the lighthouse is in that museum, pretty much. So the first thematic learning objective I'm going to answer is Work, Exchange, and Technology 3.0, using the historical thinking skill of historical causation. And this best applies to College Board Period 3, which is 1754 to 1800. So following our independence, we needed to keep up trade with other countries, and ships would oftentimes pass around this Montauk Point on their way to New York City or further down the coast. So we needed a way to make this passage safer, and so one way to do that was to build a lighthouse, and so that's what they did. In 1792, the land was bought, but it wasn't until 1795 that President George Washington authorized and signed off on the lighthouse project. So construction began on June 7th, 1796, and it was completed on November 5th, 1796. So this is historical causation because the need to secure trade routes prompted the construction of this lighthouse. So the one need caused the outcome. And then the second part of this is applies to College Board Period 4, which is 1800 to 1848. And the second thematic learning objective I'm going to answer is Culture and Society 4.0, and the historical thinking skill I am going to use is interpretation. On March of 1839, 53 Africans were taken out of their homeland of Sierra Leone. They were put onto the ship La Amistad, which was going to Puerto Principe, Cuba. En route, the morning of July 2nd, the slaves broke free from their chains and shackles and killed the captain, some crew, and disarmed all the crew. However, it is important to note that they kept the navigator unharmed because it was their goal to get back to Africa, and the navigator was essential to guide them back home. But they didn't think this out too well because the navigator, instead of helping them, just guided them up the coast of America, and they ended up in Montauk at the edge of Long Island. And so there, the ship, the USS Washington, spotted the slave ship and captured it. So then they took all the slaves off, all the crew off the ship, and they spent time in Montauk before being transported to New London, Connecticut for their trial. And this case ended up making it to the U.S. Supreme Court, where John Adams successfully argued that they were kidnapped. After this, the slaves ended up getting to go back to their homeland, and everything was okay. But this connects to Culture and Society 4.0 because we see the slaves revolting and uprising. They knew that they were not taken rightfully and that they had their own right to a free life and that they had their own identity, which is why they revolted and attempted to return to Africa. This event ties into the national struggle that would unfold in the Civil War.